So we have already done indifference curves. Okay, so now we come to a very important question for your boards, that is explain the properties of indifference curve. Okay, so this question is very easy to answer. First, you need to remember how does indifference curve look. See, indifference curve looked like this. If you remember from the previous sections of the video, indifference curve looks like this. So from this indifference curve we can infer one property, that is, see, an indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. An indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. So this is a property. Okay, an indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. So by visualizing this, you are able to get one property, but the reason behind it, it's pretty obvious, but still you need some clarifications. Now suppose our example, do you remember the example? Example was food and clothing. The schedule actually, food and clothing. So we had 10 units of food and 1 unit of clothing, 7 units of food and 2 units of clothing. Fine. So see what is happening over here. In order to get one more unit of clothing, you are giving some amounts of food. So in order to get some units of, say, commodity X, you need to give up some units of commodity Y, and that is the reason indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. Now I know you may not now get it from here, so let us picturize this with the help of a graph. So we are measuring here, let us measure here clothing, okay, and let us measure here food. Anything will do, okay. So see, we had 10 units of food and 1 unit of clothing, okay. 10 units of food and 1 unit of clothing. Okay, let's do the opposite thing, then it will be easier. Oh, okay, no, okay, clothing, it's fine. So 10 units of food and 1 unit of clothing, okay. So 1 unit of clothing may be over here, this is a 1 unit of clothing, okay, and 10 units of food may be over here, 10 units of food. So this is the point that we are getting. This is the point we are getting, 10 units of food and 1 unit of clothing, 10 units of food, 1 unit of clothing. So this point is 1, 10, okay, fine, this combination is 1, 10. See the second combination, what is the second combination? 7 units of food and 2 units of clothing. So we will be increasing 1 unit of clothing by giving up 7 units of food. 2,7. So what is happening over here? As we are giving up some units of food in order to gain some units of clothing, we are moving down the indifference curve from left to right. So that is the reason an indifference curve slopes downward from left to right. Fine? Okay. Okay, I hope you got it. And the second also, it's very easy. Now see, let me rub this for you. Okay. Let me rub this for you. Now see, this is a typical indifference curve. This is a typical indifference curve. Now see, an indifference curve is convex to the origin. See, an indifference curve is convex to the origin. This is the convex shape. Now, if had it been a concave indifference curve, I told you, concave indifference curve will look like this. So this is a concave to the origin. From the origin it looks like concave, and this is a convex. So the second property, an indifference curve is convex to the origin. Now this property, as I told you, is based on diminishing marginal rate of substitution, on the assumption of diminishing marginal rate of substitution. Now what was diminishing marginal rate of substitution? Let me remind you. Diminishing marginal rate of substitution was, let me rub this is concave, so this is no longer needed. Now, diminishing marginal rate of substitution means, suppose this was food and this was clothing. 10 units of food, 1 unit of clothing. 7 units of food, 2 units of clothing. 5 units of, let it be 5. 5 units of food, 3 units of clothing, 4 and 4. So this was our combinations. Fine. This was our combination. Now see what was our MRS, marginal rate of substitution. For this there is nothing. So here we are giving up 3 units of food in order to get 1 unit of clothing. So 3:1. Next, here we are giving up 2 units of food in order to get 1 unit of clothing. So our marginal rate of substitution is 2:1. Fine. Here we are giving 1 unit of food in order to get 1 unit of clothing. So 1:1. Now what is happening over here? Here we are seeing that the marginal rate of substitution is diminishing. Okay. So 3:1, 2:1, 1:1. It is going down. So this is the reason indifference curve is convex to the origin. Fine. Because here you see, if we mark all these things, this is 10 food, 1 clothing. This is 7 units of food, 2 clothing. So here you see the marginal rate of substitution, the slope is 3 at this point. Okay. From next, what was there? 5 units of food and 3 units of clothing. So this slope is nothing but 2. This slope was 3, this slope is 2, and the next slope will be 1. Fine. 3:2:1. So this is because the marginal rate of substitution is diminishing, the curve is taking a convex look. Okay. Had it been constant like 3, 3, 3, 3 like that, then it would have been a straight line. So because marginal rate of substitution is diminishing, indifference curve is convex to the origin. Okay. Fine. Third property. Now see, third property is very important because a lot of questions can be asked from this property, by using this property actually. Number third. Now, this property is very important. Higher indifference curve yields higher satisfaction. Let me clarify you. See, let this be an indifference curve. Let me draw this with blue ink. I see 1. Indifference curve 1. Along this same indifference curve, all the points, this point, this point, this point, this point, this point, all the points, all the infinitely many points gives you same level of satisfaction or same level of utility. But suppose this IC2. Now see, IC2 is higher than IC1 and to the right of IC1, higher than IC1. Yes, IC2 is higher than IC1. So this indifference curve will obviously yield higher satisfaction than this indifference curve. Reason, it's very simple, let me tell you. So suppose this point is combination A and this point is maybe combination Z. Fine. And this is again clothing. We are measuring x-axis as clothing and this is food. Fine. Okay. So combination A, if we go down this combination A, maybe we are having 4 units of clothing, 4 units of food. So this combination will give you 4 units of clothing and 4 units of food. Okay. And maybe this combination, which is on a higher indifference curve, mind you, Z is on a higher indifference curve, will give you 6 units of clothing because this is to the right of there. So as we go on, it will increase. 6 units of food. So 6, 6. Now you tell me which will give you higher level of satisfaction. Obviously 6 units of food and 6 units of clothing, because the more the good, the better you are. Okay. So obviously an indifference curve that is higher and to the right of an indifference curve will yield a higher level of satisfaction. So here IC2 is higher than IC1 and to the right of IC1. So it will yield higher level of satisfaction because it has more amount of goods in it. This at 4,4, this at 6,6. Obviously, the more you get, the better you are. Obviously, the more satisfied you are. So a higher indifference curve yields higher satisfaction. Fine. Now we come to the most important property of indifference curve. That is, two indifference curves never intersect each other. Okay, so this is the most important property and perhaps little bit difficult to get. Okay, so see, it's very easy. Just try to understand it graphically. See, this indifference curve gives you a satisfaction level, say u bar. Okay, and as we know that a higher level of indifference curve gives us a satisfaction u bar dash. Fine. So u bar dash is different from u bar. U bar dash gives you a higher level of satisfaction because it is on higher indifference curve, and u bar is on a lower indifference curve, which gives you less level of satisfaction. So consider this point on u bar, point A, u bar dash, okay, and this is suppose point X. So point X or combination X gives you a satisfaction level u bar, fine, and point A or combination A gives you a satisfaction level u bar 1. So we can say that combination A is more preferable than combination X because combination A gives you a higher level of satisfaction. Fine. This much understanding is very required in order to properly understand this fourth property. Okay. Now, two indifference curves never intersect each other. Now we prove this with the help of contradiction. Now what do you mean by contradiction? Contradiction means that we say the opposite. Two indifference curves never intersect each other. We say that let two indifference curves intersect each other, and then we see what are the consequences. If the consequences are not legitimate, then we say that obviously two indifference curves never intersect each other. So let us first see that what happens if two indifference curves intersect each other. Suppose this is an indifference curve IC1. This is an indifference curve IC2. Now what are they doing? They are intersecting each other. So two indifference curves never intersect each other. So this is a contradiction. Two indifference curves are intersecting each other. So what is the problem that we will face in this contradiction? If we face a problem, then we say that this is not possible. Then we come back to this. Two indifference curves never intersect each other. Now see what is happening over here. See, let IC2 give you a satisfaction u bar dash and let IC1 give you a satisfaction u bar. Okay. Now obviously these two satisfaction level are different. U bar 1 is different from u bar because this 2 represents two different indifference curve. Okay. But the main problem is what will happen to this common intersection point. Suppose this combination is represented by Z. Okay. This combination of goods is represented by Z. Now Z will give you a satisfaction level u bar because Z lies on this indifference curve. So it will give you a satisfaction level u bar. Understandable? Z lies on this indifference curve, so it gives you a satisfaction level u bar. Also notice that Z lies in this indifference curve as well. So Z will also give you a satisfaction level u bar dash because this indifference curve gives you a satisfaction level u bar dash. So how come a combination Z gives you two different level of satisfaction? It is not possible. It is absurd. So this is not a legitimate case. So we come back to conclude that two indifference curves never intersect each other. They may lie very close to each other like this. Let it be IC1, let it be IC2. But they will never intersect each other. So they may lie parallel to each other, but they will never intersect. They never intersect like this. Okay. Fine. Okay. So these are very important questions. So notice one thing. So these 4 points, writing down 4 points will not be enough to fetch you 6 marks. Okay. Suppose it is given a question of 6 marks. Okay. So you just go through your book. There is a section called properties of indifference curve. You read each line with full concentration, and then you will come to know what they are saying. So this exactly the explanation I have made you understandable with the help of graph. Okay, so this is very easy. Just go through your textbook and you will get to know it. And you can also refer to our red book, that we have this written very nicely. There is this question, explain the properties of indifference curve for 6 months. It is written very nicely, and mind you, it's a very important question. Okay, so just go through your textbook, and if you have our red book, then go through our red book, and if you don't have a red book, don't worry, go through your textbook. You have that, explain the properties of indifference. The only difference is that the textbook have a lot of things written over there. For each point you will see a lot of things written, but in the red book that is not like this. But anyhow, it will do, because in my time I read textbook only. Okay, so next we'll move on to the next topic, that is budget line. But before that, if you want to copy this, pause the video and note it down.